Welcome to the Brain Soul Success Show, where we learn, explore, and create your powerful positive healing for life. I'm your host, Louise Schwartzwalter. I'm the creator of a 5-part mind, body, soul methodology that clears the subconscious blocks to success. From engaging transformational interviews, brain soul success stories, and the secrets shared by brain and spiritual experts, you will reconnect, revitalize, and transform your powerful life. It's time for you. Welcome, everyone. Louise Schwartzwalter here with the Brain Soul Success TV show. And this is where we explore and create and learn together how to have a powerful, positive healing for your life. And I'm so excited to have my guest, Giselle Toner, with us today. Giselle comes to us from Florida, where she actually works with horses. And you'll find some of her wisdom with working with horses and integrating that with coaching. So just to kind of go through your tell us a little bit about how, I guess, you got started in the world of horses, and then I'll go through your bio a little bit here too, just to give people your background. But how did you even start with horses?
Oh, Louise, it was something that was in me from when I was born, honestly. And I have to tell you that my family was kind of in shock because we lived in the city, and nobody ever was really even into any kind of animals or horses especially. And, I have 2 sisters and they were scared to death of anything that's bigger than a mini dog, a miniature dog. So I honestly can tell you that it was something that I was really born with, because as soon as I saw a picture of a horse or on television, I would immediately run to the television and want to go into the screen. And my parents were like, "What is she doing?"
Wow.
So,
so it came from when you were a little girl.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. See, there's so much that we do when we're young that isn't, an example of really our passion and what we want to be doing later.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes feel that people, when they close that door on that passion when they're young and never follow it or get back to it later, they suffer inside.
Yeah.
Don't they? They suffer inside. They really need to do that. Well, you have quite a background. So, I mean, we opened here with your love for horses, but you have 30 years experience, right? Teaching women and how to increase their energies physically, mentally, and spiritually through using the science of yoga too, and helping them up-level their self-worth, their personality, their professionally through the strategic life coaching programs that you've been using. So you're a certified perfect health educator. You've been trained personally by Deepak Chopra in California. And you hold retreats all over, right? Various tropical, huh? Tropical destinations.
It has to be tropical.
It has to be tropical for you, right? And created the Successful Goddess Blueprint. And you're working with that now and actually helping women who've struggled from trauma and abuse a lot. Who feel very broken.
Yeah.
Wow, what a gift. What a gift. And I also know you're a motivational speaker, public motivation. So you've done lots of amazing things in your life. And so yoga is one of them too. I know you're taught yoga and you use that in your practice, even in your coaching.
Yes.
What got you into yoga? How did you start?
It's funny, Louise, because when I was younger, I came from a pretty rough background. I came from a very abusive home, childhood. And Dad was never home. Mom was very stressed from Dad never being around. And my mother, unfortunately, really didn't have the any more, let's say, how you have your ability to tend to your children. Well, she already had 3 before me, and by the time I came along, she was done. And it's like, okay, so she really was very stressed, and my heart goes out to her, because I know as an adult now what it's like to have terrible situation in your own life. And that's the reason why I was kind of pushed aside and and really in an abusive situation. So I won't go any further into that, but it was really not good. But the reason why I was drawn to, number one, horses, and I'll get to the yoga in a second. The horses was because, number one, it was already in me. I just felt a really strong attachment to them, but they actually were kind of like my saving grace, because when I was sad or lonely, I would just walk to the stable, which wasn't that far from my house, and connect with these beautiful, gigantic animals that I really should have been afraid of, but I bonded with them because they didn't judge me. And they also were very vulnerable. So horses are prey animals. They have been the dinners for other animals for millions of years. And now they develop this capacity to be very vulnerable and to be very aware of their situation, to save their own lives and run if they have to. And I actually identified with that because I felt that way.
Right.
I felt in my own life that I had a very scary situation at home sometimes, and I had to run. And these horses had the same thing, having to run from, predators. So we connected. And honestly, a lot of women are like that because they come from situations where they're vulnerable, and they connect with horses because it's a very similar kind of a thing, right?
Wow, I love that. That's interesting. I never would have thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's very true. And there is so much more about that, but I won't go too into it because I'll take up, an indefinite time. But the yoga, now that is another really amazing thing that I was drawn to for no real reason that I can even think of, other than the fact that I was in a library when I was younger, because I was lonely as a kid, okay? And I would always either go to the library or the pet store. So the library was fascinating because I loved to read, and the pet store was like great because I had these little animals that I would look at. And so I went to the library and I saw this book, and I pulled the book out, and it was fascinating because it had really beautiful pictures of people doing these amazing things with their body. And I'm like, what is that? and I was like, I've got to read this. And I read it. But the fascinating thing was that when I got to the meditation part, I realized that I had already been doing that on my own. I was already meditating on my own just to escape reality. And it was just something that I started doing. Anyway, long story short, I started following what the book told me to do, doing the basic poses, breathing exercises, and meditating. And I stuck with that through the years and eventually became a teacher, but I was self-taught because it was so long ago that there were no schools, there were no certifying agencies. It was just me reading a book and then reading more books, right? So I read more and more and more. And then eventually I started teaching, and I started having private classes in my house. And I would open up my doors on a Wednesday night, and I would have people coming in, and I would be teaching them yoga. And eventually I would have private clients. The private clients is where my life started to change a little bit, going in the direction of coaching and life coaching. Because I would start training women, and these women would come in for yoga. And then the next thing I would know, instead of them listening to me about the poses, they would want to talk. And they would say, my husband did this, or my kids did that. And after a while, it started to become like a regular thing where they would come in and open up about their lives. And a lot of times it was sad. Sometimes it would turn into a crying session, and I would say, let's not do yoga. Let's just have a cup of tea and let's talk. And then eventually I realized that I was coaching these women to get them out of pain. And that's when I decided to go become a life coach, and I got my certifications for that. And then eventually I, loved horses so much, and I basically always had a horse. I would rob Peter to pay Paul to keep my horse, And I started taking my clients with me to the stable, and miraculous things would happen because when let's just say a woman who was in pain and broken would be in the company of an amazing, magnificent animal that was much bigger than her and much stronger than her, but she was able to lead him around and be near him without him attacking her or, overpowering her. It was something that was empowering to a woman, and even men, but especially women, because we're vulnerable and we're smaller and, we're not the stronger sex usually, but it would be such a wonderful thing. And then I started to learn about that connection. And I got more and more involved in the connection between horses and how they can heal. And so now it's a whole therapy mode. You can go online and check it out. It's a huge thing. So that's a little bit about my background.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I can just imagine, I can kind of see it, taking women out to the stables and working with the horses and what they're going to learn from the horse too, and all the mirroring that goes on with that,
Exactly.
So, we get into those places, like you mentioned earlier, of really working at the levels that we're working with people, because we had something happen in our own lives, some struggle, some challenge, something that occurred, and sometimes there's a light bulb moment, I call it, that moment where it's a transformational thing that seems to happen. And you mentioned that you had grown up kind of difficult family. Was there a light bulb moment for you, or any transition, the struggle that you had?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I found myself, as a child, when you go through a certain type of dynamic, you always repeat it over and over and over again because you try to get it right, or it's because you don't know any better. And I realized that since there was abuse in my childhood, that I was going into the same kind of abusive situations in relationships. And I would always find myself in the same kind of a category where I was getting physically abused, mentally abused, verbally abused. And honestly, Louise, it felt familiar. And that is why I was okay with it, because that's what I experienced as a child. But the difference was I was trying to fix the person and let them know that if I love them enough, that you can treat me okay. And in a way, it was kind of me validating myself that if I could win the love of this abuser, then that means that I'm worthwhile. And that is the worst thing that anybody could ever do, because you cannot gain the love of an abuser. They are really the person that's a predator to you. And most likely, they're not going to change for you. And so if that's the way you need validation, you're going down the wrong road. And eventually, it got to the point where I was so at the bottom of the barrel and physically abused, and I mean into hospitals sometimes, that I had to stop and say, what is happening here? And I remember that there was a moment where I got on my knees because I was so broken. And there was nobody there. I was all by myself, all alone. And I got on my knees, and I just remembered calling out to God or the angels or anything that could help me. And Louise, I actually, at that moment, felt seriously a presence that I can't even describe to you. It was a presence of something that was there that said, you are going to be okay. And you need to just stay with this energy. And the energy was the energy that was coming into me. Okay.
Wow.
And I knew that I was going to be okay. And I got off my knees and wiped my tears away. And from that moment on, I felt a power that I've never lost. And it's been with me ever since. And that is what I do now. But there were certain things that I did after that. There were steps that I had to take. It wasn't just an automatic, okay, I'm fine. There were steps that I had to take. And every step that I took, I knew what I had to do, and I documented it. And so that now when I teach my clients, and if I have women that I'm coaching, or even men, I put them through these same steps, because it really is amazing how it changed me, and it really helps them so much.
Wow, you know what? You had some amazing foresight there and brilliance in documenting those steps. And I don't want to say I'm sorry that you went through that. I know that most of us have some kind of test or challenge in our life, and that's what shapes us and helps us do the great work that we're doing in the world. So for transformational coaches like yourself and myself, it often is that. But what a memory too, and thank you for sharing that, Giselle, of that moment, because I know there's people listening today who also may have had a moment like that, or some place in their life where they either felt a presence or there was some turning point, something happened that just shifted them.
Yeah.
And those are, I mean, I call those, they're God moments.
That's right.
You
It's the
know, I don't know
truth.
if it's God, angels, what, but it's it's a moment, you know.
You know what
Uh,
it is, Louise? It's just it's the creative force of this universe that
mhm.
it's there. And no matter how you want to label it or honor it or say what you think it is, it's the same. And it's this energy that's pure love, and it's high intelligence,
Yes,
and we have that in us already, but we forget. And the
yes,
thing that really wakes it up is pain.
of course. You've got to feel the pain. No
Yeah,
pain, no gain, right?
right.
I mean, that's what the athlete view of it, but
Yeah, yeah,
it really is that. You got to feel
yeah.
the pain to get there.
Pain is a spiritual ladder as far as I'm concerned. And even though nobody wants to feel it or go through it, I don't look back at the things that happened to me and curse it. I bless it. And I'm so happy that I went through what I went through, because I know that it was for a reason, and that it got me to where I am right now, which is such an amazing place. Such an amazing place. I mean, I will never be able to fit myself back into that tiny little negative place, that little hole. I am so expansive now that there's no way that I could ever fit back into that again. And I think that that's what happens when we start to transform. We get so big, we grow out of this body, so that, really, we are really infinite beings. You are not that body. You are way beyond that body. So when you do get to that place, you know it and you feel it, and it's unmistakable.
It is unmistakable. I know exactly what you're feeling, and I think people listening, can resonate with that. And I
Yeah,
always say we're a soul with a body, not a body with a soul.
that's right.
And you know that your heart, when you're in mother's womb, when your heart forms, that heartbeat, that
Yes,
first beat is when your soul is formed.
that's right. Yeah.
So our heart actually develops in the womb before the brain.
Yes, right.
So it is that heartbeat,
That's right.
so that's why that heart, the breathing that you do in yoga, when you're
Yeah,
breathing into your heart, all that's bringing you to that connection. That's bringing you to
that's right.
that place.
Yeah.
Definitely. So give us an example, Giselle, of some of the women that you work with, maybe a story that you can think of someone without necessarily using names.
Yeah.
Some transformation that occurred for somebody that you worked with.
Yeah, I've got so many of them, but I'll think of someone just recently. Okay, so I had a woman who started coming to my yoga classes. And when she walked in the door, she had her head down. She was a little overweight. She shuffled in, and she basically just stayed in the corner and didn't really want to be seen. Okay, and I immediately identified with this woman, and I'm like, all right, she's really in pain in some area. So when the class was over, I didn't go over to her, but I knew that she would be back. Well, I hoped, let's put it this, I hoped that she would be back. And sure enough, my next class, she's there. So she became a regular. And after a while, she started to get a little bit, good at the poses. And she looked like she was kind of getting a little bit better. But one day, she came over to me and she said, I hear that you are a life coach. And I said, yeah. She said, I need you. I said, okay. She said, I want to start working with you. I said, okay, no problem. So Louise, the story with this woman was this. She was born in Italy. She came here about 15 years ago, learned the language, went to school, got a wonderful education, has a fabulous job, but she was with a man who basically, and I hate to say this because it's not always the case that a woman is with a bad man. There's so many wonderful men out there, but she just happened to be with a guy who was never really appreciating her. He didn't beat her. He didn't cheat on her, but he just didn't really love her. And it made her soul her soul was dead. She was sinking. She sunk. Well, anyway, I started to work with her, and she started to come out of this shell like you would not believe. She started to love herself even though she didn't feel good physically, her body wasn't in great shape, but she started to love herself. And the next thing you know, she starts working more and more with the yoga. She started to change physically and mentally and spiritually. And then she got around my horse. That was it. She transformed. She changed so much. And this is what happened.
Mhm.
She was talking about leaving her husband, and I said, no. I said, look, he's not a bad guy. He just doesn't know how to love you. I said, and that's because you don't love yourself. I said, I have to tell you, when you start loving yourself, I think you're going to see a change in him. And
Mhm.
sure enough, she started listening and doing the things I told her to do. And she started doing these practices that were really fulfilling her. She
Mhm.
started putting herself first.
Mhm.
There were times when she had things to do and she just couldn't really tend to him. And she was like, oh no, he's the man of the house. I said, no, 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 no. You're the woman of the house. You need to honor yourself. So
Uh-huh.
she started to change her ways, and not in a disrespectful way, but in a way of honoring herself and becoming the queen. And I said to her, you need to take that throne, get on the throne and put that crown on. And she did, literally sat on the throne, put the crown on, adjusted it. And she's like, this is me. And I said, yes, it is you. You are a powerful woman. You need to remember that. Next thing you know, he starts noticing, and he's like, I don't know if I like this. But he had no choice, because it was either you run with the wolves or you get eaten. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's what he had to do. So he had to change his way of relating to this new, beautiful woman who loved herself enough
Mhm.
to draw that line in the sand. This is me now. You take me as I am, or else. I'm sorry. He made some changes. They
Great.
now, wait, now they've got this marriage where he is cooking for her. He coffee in the morning. They have a wild sex life. She tells me, I'm like, all right, TMI. I don't need it. She's like, you can't believe the way he changed, because I honor myself and he honors me now. I said, I am so happy.
That's awesome.
So it's a beautiful story,
It is a beautiful story. It is, and it's such a great story about the importance of that, that self-love, love
Yeah.
thyself first. Yeah, I always see that with
Yes.
relationships.
And it
Yeah.
changed him. So she didn't have to leave him or divorce him. He got on the bandwagon and he said, yes, my woman deserves the best. And she's not going to take no for an answer. So, I got to do it. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful story. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. So
Yeah.
the message there for all of us obviously is, to all of our audience out there, love thyself, right?
That's right. You have to
Take
honor
care of,
yourself.
take care of
Mhm.
yourself. Do those
And
things
this
that make you
isn't
happy.
and this isn't just for women. This is
Mm-hmm.
for men too, because right now I'm working with a man who went through years of abuse in his own way, and he's
Mm-hmm.
now starting, and it's been a year that I've been working with him, but he's just starting to really feel his own power again. So it's not just women, it's men too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. My teachers used to say, when you work on yourself, it changes everyone around you.
That's right.
So, it's always about that inside job. And that's also for our consciousness and our awakeness on the
Yeah.
planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are obligated not only to work on yourself for you,
Yeah.
for, what you want to create in your life and the way you want to live your life, but when you work on you, it spreads out. It
Yes.
spreads out to the greater whole. So it is an obligation for our universal and our earth changes that need to happen.
That's right.
So I think Greg Braden said it's time to change the story.
That's right.
It's time to change the story.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to empower all of you out there to change that story, to take an action step.
Yeah.
If you could share something, maybe one tip or a technique maybe that you
Mm-hmm.
use,
Mm-hmm.
Giselle, with our audience today, to put us in a place where we can take that. Everybody here can take that step in honoring
Yeah.
themselves.
Absolutely.
Any ideas on that? What you might want to
Abs-
share?
oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
Good.
I I think, Louise, that we all have stress in our lives, and stress is necessary. However, sometimes that stress takes it a little too far, and we go along with it until we get sick, and we don't want to do that. One of the most amazing things that I really want to give is that, and tell you, is that it's something that's so simple, and it's your breath. So
Okay.
our breathing process is so critically important, and a lot of times when we get stressed, we don't breathe. We hold our breath. So when you are in a situation, whether it's abusive or whether it's just stress from the job or you're in traffic and somebody cut you off, take a very long inhale just through your nose. Bring it all the way into the bottom of your lungs until you feel your belly expand. Breathe in. On the exhale, it's just through the nose also, with a very slight tightening of your throat. And you're going to press the air out with your belly until it makes a whispering sound. And you're going to hear that difference. You're going to hear a sound on the exhale. That's actually a yogic breath called Ujjayi breathing. And it's very simple to learn. It's on my website. You can learn it, but it's simple. It's in through the nose, out through the nose.
Let's try this. Sit nice and tall and try it. Okay.
That's right.
We're gonna breathe in through the nose and then
in through
out
the nose. Okay. Yes. So it's just a nice long inhale. Bring your fingers to the ribs. And as you inhale, feel the ribs expand. So slow, long inhale through your nose. And now slow, long exhale through your nose, little tightening of your throat so that the breath comes out slowly and you're pressing the air out with your belly. And you'll hear a whisper on the exhale. It sounds like the ocean.
Yes, it does.
Right?
That's cool. I like it.
So you want to just practice that for a while, and seriously, the stress will just go away. You'll be focused on your breath.
Isn't it? So much is breath. And you're so right. We stop breathing. I noticed that in myself. I'm just like working, you know, you're at your computer, you're doing stuff, and we just stop breathing. We need to, you know, what if we, and how often would you need to do that? Or for how long would you advise someone to sit and do that nose breathing?
Okay, I would say it's basically all according to how you're feeling. You could just maybe do a few of those deep breaths and then long exhales, and you'll feel yourself releasing stress. Sometimes you'll need to do it for a little bit longer, maybe 10 breaths. And for some people, it's a great way to fall asleep at night. Like if you're having a restless night, just start some of this breathing, bring your awareness to your breath, and just, you know, release that way. And the other thing too is that this breathing is going to give you more energy, more oxygen, but it's also going to calm you down. The other thing too is that breath is life. And if your quality of your breath is shallow, that's the quality of your life. So you know that if you hold your breath for about 4 or 5 minutes, you're going to die. Your brain's going to lose the oxygen. You're not going to be around. The breathing is critical, and we don't really even give it that much thought because we don't have to. It happens automatically. But when you bring your awareness to that breath and you focus on it and you make it a little bit more dynamic, your life will change. Your energy levels and your breathing and everything else changes. More clarity.
Awesome. I love that. That is really an awesome tip, you know, and it's so simple. I love those simple kind of tools that we can all use. Yeah. And, you know, we're all going to gravitate towards the ones that work for you, you know, and I always share with people, it's okay if you do something for a while and it's working and you shift to another tool. Right? It's
but this
okay.
Is something, this is something that will be a lifelong tool for you because let's face it, stress is always going to be here. So, right?
Absolutely. Wow, what a powerful tip. Thank you so much, Giselle.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being with us today and sharing, you know, your story, how you came, you know, how you came to do the awesome work that you're doing with so many people. And that story of transformation and change so people can know, you know what's really possible for them, that they don't have to suffer, you know, that it's all about that balance, creating that balance and using those tools. So how can people get a hold of you if they wanted to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can just go to my website. It's called GiselleToner.com. It's GISELLETONER.com. If you go there, you'll be able to just look at my site. You'll be able to actually connect with me. I have a free book that you can download. And it really is wonderful, if I say so myself. So go and download the free book, and that's a way for us to keep in touch also. And I can send you more information about the breathing technique. And I also want to thank you, Louise, for having me on this show and allowing me to share with your audience. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're so welcome. You know, I should share with the audience that you were able to come to an event and you did an amazing session with all of us on some of that breathing and some amazing yoga techniques just in the chair. You know, so we were all in a big event room, right? We were just doing the chair exercises and wow, my body felt so much better after that. I didn't realize I was so tight. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you're standing and delivering all day and you don't even realize what that does to your body. So you have a
Yes.
gift there too. So
Thank
combining your
you.
yoga with the equine and all that you're
Yeah.
working with people who are feeling broken and lifting them up, you're doing such great work. So I
Thank you
want to
so
honor
much.
you. Yeah, keep doing your
Thank you.
beautiful work in the world,
Thank
and
you.
get in touch with Giselle at GiselleToner.com. Reach out to us too if you have questions about anything. We are here for you. So, and we just want you all to have an awesome day. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
And we'll tune in next time on the Brain Soul Success Show.